Self-Love is the New Sexy, the podcast devoted to helping you overcome life's most painful and stubborn challenges so you can feel great, have more energy, and live stress-free every day. To reach your full potential, simply work with the powerful spiritual principles that are readily accessible to everyone. It's easier than you think, and on today's show, W. Mark Watts is going to show you how starting with self-love is the key to joyously and harmoniously making that happen.
Hey everybody, it's W. Mark Watts. I want to say hello, welcome, and thank you to everyone for hanging out with me for another episode of Self-Love is the New Sexy. And today's topic is all about building your self-love muscles. Building your self-love muscles. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is loving yourself to the best of your ability and at the highest level means there's certain rules you have to follow. And in order to follow rules, that requires discipline. And oftentimes, this has to be a learned process. And what I'm understanding is a lot of my generation and some of the generations prior or before me, we didn't always do a good job of loving ourselves. And, you know, loving ourselves falls into many different categories. But the main one is honoring those things that truly make us happy, that truly lights us up, that truly gives us joy and fun and peace and tranquility. That's what self-love is all about. And so when you don't do that, when you don't allow yourself to consistently do those things that truly light you up, that are in concert with your spirit, that, you know, you are getting that little small voice in the pit of your stomach or in your head, when you're hearing that voice and you're ignoring it, then, you know, you're not loving yourself at the highest level. So the way you counteract that is at some point, once you realize what you're doing, so that's the first step, is you have to understand and realize that that's what you're doing. You're not loving yourself to your best ability. Once you realize that, then the way to counteract it is you've got to create a regimen that will allow you to do something different, to get into the path of those things that light you up, your joy, your passion, your pleasures. And that requires building those muscles, building that habit, those habits. So, you know, when I say building muscles, all I mean really is creating the habits that allow you to love yourself at the highest level each and every day, and every hour and every minute, you know, which turns into months and years. Now, will there be times when you will backtrack? Absolutely. And all you do is when you recognize that you're backtrack or you're off track, then you just go back to the basics again. And so let me give you an example of really why I decided to talk about this today is because if you remember, or if you've listened to any of the other episodes, you might have heard me talk about a couple of new passions of mine that I've really started to dig into a lot. And one of them is investing in the financial markets, more specifically day trading. And that's something that you do Monday through Friday. You can trade pre-market, you can trade after the market, but basically the general public trades from 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Well, what happens when you're day trading, just like anything else, just like anything in life, I'm learning that there are rules, there are patterns, there are things you have to do if you want to be successful. Number one is you got to show up. You got to be there. Number two is you got to learn what those rules and guidelines, and you got to understand generally how the game is played. And you got to find some people who are successful, and you got to model. You got to listen. And then most importantly, once you've done all that, once you've done the homework, you got in the game, you showed up, you understand a little bit, then you have to be what? Disciplined in what works in whatever task you're doing. So yesterday, I was not disciplined. I created a goal for myself, a daily goal for how much I want to make as I'm starting to scale up and learn, really, because there's a lot to learn. There's, it's a totally new arena for me. So, and things just aren't familiar. So, which means when things aren't familiar to you, you are highly susceptible to make mistakes or to not be good at it. And that's one of my pet peeves is if I go after something, I don't enjoy not being good at something. So I work really hard and I study and I pay attention and I model and I do all those things required to get better at it. So needless to say, yesterday I was up, I was green. So which means I had made money in the market and I had made money early in the market, early in the day. And I wasn't satisfied. Now I knew I should just walk away. I knew it. And I told myself initially I should be done for the day. But I did not listen to myself. I was not disciplined. And I continued to look for opportunities to trade. And then, which means I broke my discipline. I started reaching for trades. Ultimately, I started misreading trade opportunities. And guess what happened? I ended up giving back everything I had made that morning, plus double what I had made in the first place. So at the end of the day, I ended up red quite a bit when if I had just remained disciplined, I could have been green, I could have added to my account, and I could have started the next day in a much better place. But I'm building my day trading muscles of discipline. I'm not there yet. So, and it obviously is the key to my success yesterday. And it's going to be the key to my long-term success. And it's the same for us, no matter what part of our lives we're looking to improve in, or we look to really take to the next level. It requires that discipline. And self-love is no different. Self-love is the most important aspect of our life. No one's told us that. No one talks about it. No one there's been more and more people teaching about it now than there used to be. But it's something that humanity has not evolved naturally into yet. So we don't recognize it right away. We feel it, and the way that we feel it is when we're unhappy. When we're unhappy, truly unhappy in any situation in our lives, that means that we are going against the principles of self-love, which means we get to enjoy. We should enjoy. We should look for pleasure. We should look for peace, tranquility. We should look for alignment. We need to be in alignment with what Spirit, God, Source is speaking to us to do, leading us, guiding us toward. When we're not doing that, when we feel bad, it's because we're out of alignment. Self-love is lacking, and we have to do something about it. That's why it hurts so much. That's why we really get into situations where we're not at peace, where we're really upset, where we can't sleep, and it starts to spill over into our physical world, where we start to get various ailments, headaches, fatigue, stress. All of those are signs that we aren't loving ourselves to the best of our abilities. And so we have to be aware of that. So again, the first thing you got to do is know what those rules are. And the rules is what brings me peace, what brings me joy, what's my passion, what am I being called to do, what am I avoiding? Because oftentimes our joy and peace are on the other side of what we are avoiding as well. So ask those questions if you feel that you aren't in a place where you're being the most loving to yourself. And then the next thing you do is you got to find that daily discipline. How do I do more? How do I get to that place? How do I think about this more? How do I feel those feelings more? How do I place myself in the environment more? How do I get that job or switch professions? How do I talk to or enjoy that person more? How do I enjoy myself more? Do I go see more movies? Do I get out in nature more? Do I write more? Is writing my passion? What are you called to do? What brings you that peace and tranquility? Do more of it on a daily basis. That is the key. And when you do that more on a daily basis, you start to build that habit, which is building those self-love muscles. And before you know it, you get stronger in that area where you automatically start to do those things that you really enjoy doing, that light you up. And then finally, the last thing I want to mention before I go here is don't place those things in stone. So don't think that just because you're passionate about something in this moment, or you're being asked to do something in this moment, or you want that job in this moment, or you want to be with that group of people or that specific person in this moment, don't lock that in stone to where you think that you have to do that, feel that, be with that person forever. It's one of the biggest misnomers that we in our society have to get beyond. Allow yourself the opportunity and the ability to change when you feel led to change. And I'm going to stop right there because that in and of itself is a whole nother separate podcast episode. I'm not going to get into it right now, but give yourself the flexibility. Loving yourself means being okay with the changes and shifts that you might want to make in your life. So understand when you're not being self-loving to yourself, counteract it by building that muscle, having the discipline to do those things that make you feel good now more. And then give yourself the flexibility to change and shift whenever you feel the desire to do so. That's all I have for you. I hope that you are building your self-love muscles along with me each and every day. And I hope that you continue to hang out with me because I truly enjoy doing this podcast for you guys and for myself. So work on building those habits, building those self-love muscles. Come back and hang out with me again, and I'll talk with you all again soon. Bye now.
You've been listening to Self-Love is the New Sexy with W. Mark Watts. If you enjoyed today's show, be sure to tell a friend. Also, make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing to our show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, or wherever you listen to podcasts.